Heidi again, and I am here with another video. This video is going to be my first in a series I'm hoping to create, and it's called Reading Reminiscence. And this series is where I talk about things that have happened in my life that revolve around books, and sometimes they can be my first book that I ever ditched, or this video is going to be about a conference I went to where I was able to meet a lot of authors and get a lot of books, some ARCs, some books that I hadn't even ever heard of before, and it just really expanded my knowledge of mostly young adult books. It was the Allen Conference, and Allen stands for the Assembly on Literature for Adolescents of the NCTE, and NCTE is the National Council for Teachers of English. And so this conference was specifically designed for English teachers and media specialist librarians, and they just want to get books into our hands so we can get them into kids' hands. So it was my first time ever attending the NCTE conference, which is the National Council for Teachers of English. That conference happens every year right before Thanksgiving, and it's never in Minnesota, and it was in Minnesota this year. And so I begged my principal to go to NCTE. I didn't end up getting to go because my friend Sandy was speaking at the conference, and so she obviously got to go because she was speaking there, so she should. And we could only send one teacher to the conference, and so she went to that one. But Sandy mentioned that there's an Allen conference that she had heard of, and she'd heard good things, and I knew nothing about it going into it. And she said, "Why don't you go to that one?" And I said, "Okay, I mean, it's a conference, I might as well." And so I ended up getting the permission to go to that conference, and the district paid for it, which was great. And I knew nothing about it, and I had no idea what I was getting into. And I just want to share my experience with you. The conference was on a Monday and a Tuesday right before Thanksgiving, that week of Thanksgiving, and I ended up staying downtown in a hotel because I just wasn't sure what to expect. I heard that sometimes authors went out to dinner with people and you got to like go have a couple beverages with them, and hearing that, I just decided I'm gonna take advantage of this and just stay downtown so I don't have to drive back and forth home to the conference and do that. So that was a really good choice, because the night before, I got there on a Sunday, and the night before they had a cocktail hour with some of the authors. And so as an Allen conference attendee, you got 2 free drink tickets, and you got to go just mingle with a bunch of authors and other Allen attendees. And I got to meet 2 authors that night that I got to talk to, and the first one I met was Jason Reynolds, and here is a picture of me and him, and he was really nice. The line to meet him was just miles long, and he has written books like, it's right here, The Boy in the Black Suit and All American Boys. He wrote those 2 books, and so that was fun to meet him. But I think the author who I just loved talking to the most at that cocktail hour was Claudia Gray. This is her picture. And Claudia and I talked for a half hour, and she could have gone and talked to anyone else, but she sat and she talked to me about all the books that she's written. She was talking about the Star Wars one, which was the one that was being given away at the conference, and then the one that she was signing. And then she also told me about a new series that she's writing right now that she's really excited about. And she told me like the whole premise of it, and I am pumped. I cannot wait for that to come out. I don't want to say too much because I know Claudia told me that kind of in the confidence of the cocktail hour, and so hopefully she'll release some of that information soon. But I loved talking to Claudia. That was so much fun. And while I was at the cocktail party, I ended up meeting a lot of really wonderful people, just talking to them, and they happened to come up to me, and they were wanting to meet Jason Reynolds too, and so I just started talking to them, and I ended up becoming part of this like teacher posse, which is teachers from all over the US and who have come to Allen. A couple of them have been 4, 5, 6 years in a row. There was one other girl there who was a first-time Allen attendee with myself as well, and that was really fun. So we ended up going out for dinner that night and meeting a couple other people who were going to the conference for dinner, and it was so much fun just to meet them. The funny part was it was November in Minnesota, and being a Minnesotan, you don't get cold really easily because it is so cold outside, and I ended up only wearing my Minnesota Vikings jersey because they were playing that day. They lost that day, which was sad, and it was to the Packers. But anyway, I was just wearing my Vikings jersey and I didn't have a coat on, and the other teachers I was with are from down south, and so they were kind of freezing, and we took a picture with my friend Jenny, and I'll put that right up here, and she is wearing this coat and hat and mittens, and I'm just out there in my Vikings jersey. So it was pretty funny. I liked that a lot. We went back to the hotel after dinner and just got a good night's sleep before the conference. Here's a picture of me on the way to the conference in the morning. I was so excited because I had no idea what to expect, so I was absolutely pumped. So you go into the ballroom and they give you a couple different tickets. So one ticket is for a box of books, one ticket is for a bag of books, and one ticket is to get to the table that's full of books. So you go drop your stuff at a table, and there's just tons of tables lined up, and you drop your stuff and you go get your box of books, you go get your bag of books, and then you go to the table and you grab one of each book on the table. So by the time you get back to your table and start unloading your box and your bag and the books you got on the table, it looks something like this, and not something like this. This is exactly what my pile looks like. And it's just this wall of books, and it was so overwhelming because these were all for me. Like, I got to take these back to my classroom and to my kids, and it was all just from going to this conference, and it was the coolest thing ever. And so the conference had panels of authors that would come up and talk about different subjects. So they would talk about equality, they would talk about LGBT issues, they would talk about the harder issues like suicide or depression or mental illness. They would talk about laughter, they would talk about fun. The panels were all different themes, and it revolved around the theme of Viva la Reading Revolution, which I'll put up the program right here. And it all just revolved around getting kids to read and getting them to love to read, and not shoving books down their throats and not teaching the book so much that they just hate it. And it was so inspiring just to hear them talk about how important teachers are and how important we are to getting books into kids' hands, and that's why they put on this conference for us, and it was just awesome. So after the panel was done, you got to take whatever book you had of that author, and then you got to go in the back of the ballroom and stand in lines, similar to this one, to wait for them to sign your book. So they would sign any of the books that you had if you waited in this line. And typically the authors would stay in their spot to sign for like an hour-ish, hour and a half, and then you got to get your book signed. The cool part about it was in the same room as the panels. So as you're standing in line waiting for your book to get signed, you're listening to the next panel, and you're almost kind of trying to plan, okay, when I'm done with this, I'm going to run back and get this book so I can get this book signed. And you were talking to people. I mean, it was such a wonderful experience. So then I went back to my hotel night one, and here's a picture of the desk at my hotel with all the books that I had from day one, and I had to bring all those back with me in like bags, and I'm carting them all back. You had to walk through the huge building that it was in and back to the hotel and with all these books, and it was crazy. So that's the picture of my desk. And then I also had to pack them all up because I had to check out of my hotel room the next morning and let them hold my stuff until the end of the conference. And so let's talk about packing problems, because I had no idea I was getting all these books. So I did not bring enough bags to bring all these books home. So luckily I got boxes and bags from the conference in order to pack all these and bring them all home. So this is the packing struggle that I had right here. It was a mess, a good mess, a really good problem to have, but it was a mess. And so then I just got a great night's sleep. I had so much fun that first night. And then we were on to day two, and day two was just as great as day one. We continued getting more and more books. They just kept putting books on the tables, and you could grab, you know, one of each copy, and then at the end, if they had more copies, you could grab more copies if you wanted. And at this point, a lot of the people who were from out of town started having to leave to catch their planes home. And so because I am a local teacher, I ended up staying until the end, and I was totally floored. I ended up getting 8 extra boxes of books to bring back to my school. And the reason that they had those extra boxes is because they planned for so many people. Some people might not show up to the conference. And so they have all these extra boxes of books. And the thing is, the publishers donated all these books to this conference, and it would cost Alan, the group that host this conference, it would cost them too much money to send the books back. So if they didn't give them away, they'd have to throw them away, which they never want to do. So they always try and donate all their books. And from what I've been told, they never have a problem getting rid of the books because as teachers, like we're all about free books. Like give us the free books for our classrooms. So I ended up getting 8 free boxes of books to bring back to my school and to share with my colleagues and give away to the kids. So it was really exciting. I ended up having to call my dad and ask him to bring his Ford Expedition SUV big honker to carry all these, to have all these books get back to my house. And so this is a picture of what my little homemade chair that I had to make out of the boxes of books waiting for him to pick me up. So I got home and I brought all the books in and I texted my colleagues right away and I said, get over here, I got a ton of books. And so two of my colleagues came over, Kai and Sandy, and we organized the books by titles on my kitchen table, my kitchen counter, and then, well, actually 2 of my kitchen counters, one by my sink and then one by on the other side of my kitchen. And so we organized all the books, and here are the pictures of those. So this one is my kitchen table, and then this one is my counter by my sink, and then this one is the other counter in my kitchen. And so we just stacked them all up by titles, and we kind of organized them for colleagues, we organized them for giveaways, and it was just so fun seeing all of those books. And my colleagues came over and they were like, what? How did you get all these books? And I said, I'm just special, I guess. So that was really fun to be able to give those to my colleagues. I did some giveaways at school where I had kids tell me why they love reading. I had kids drawing a book cover. I did a coloring contest, so I got to give all those books away. The other really cool thing that I liked about this conference was the authors were so kind to autograph all of the books that we wanted them to autograph. You could walk up with a stack of 7 books and they would autograph all 7 of them for you. And they talked to you and they took time to thank us for being teachers, and they were just so kind. So I just want to go through some of the pictures of the authors that I met. The first one I have up here is Catherine Applegate, and she wrote The One and Only Ivan, and then her second book is Crenshaw, which was the one that we got. And she was the sweetest, sweetest woman, and I can't wait. I haven't read her books yet, and I need to read them, but here's a picture of her and I, and her signing my book, Crenshaw. The next author I met was A.S. King, and she is actually friends with some of the teacher friends that I met, and I felt kind of cool being like, you know, the 5 degrees of Kevin Bacon or something. I was only like 1 degree from A.S. King. That was pretty cool. And the next author I met is Aya Marpeck, I think is how you say her name, and she wrote her book when she was 16 years old, and she talked about bullying and how it really affects kids in school, and not even in school, but like for the rest of their lives. And so she wrote that when she was 16 years old, and so that was really cool to meet her. I then met Nicola Yoon, who wrote Everything Everything, and she was very sweet, first-time author at Allen, and she was just overwhelmed with everyone wanting to meet her and signing all the books, and she was very sweet. And then I also met David Levithan, and he was very sweet too. His line was long. Everyone wanted to meet David Levithan, and he still took the time to take a picture with whoever wanted to take a picture, and it was just awesome. So that was the Allen conference, and I got so many books at that conference, and books that I had never heard of, and I ended up walking into Barnes & Noble to buy, I think it was The Boy in the Black Suit. I walked into Barnes & Noble to buy it, and literally as I was walking back to the young adult, I was like, have that book, have that book, have that book, have heard of you now I know you. And it was so eye-opening, the amount of knowledge and information I gained from that conference. It was just amazing. So shout out to Alan for putting that conference on. Shout out to all of my teacher friends who I met at that conference, and I'm already trying to figure out how to get to Alan this year in November. So I will definitely see all of you teacher friends there. Thank you so much for watching this video. I know it was a longer one, but I hope that you enjoyed my first reading Reminiscence. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you have any comments or questions about the Allen Conference, especially if you're an English teacher and you want to go, please let me know in the comments down below, and I will get you that information so that you can go to that conference as well. I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and I will see you in another video. Bye, everyone.